Good evening, everyone. Well, are you upgrading yourself with the skills which industry needs from a procurement professional? Well, it is time we must ask this question to ourselves. And then GSCA School of Excellence is going to help you finding the right knowledge and skills. Well, this is Jatin Luthra from the Office of GSCS India Secretariat. Would like to welcome you all in this curated webinar organized by School of Excellence and bring you the answers from the industry veterans of procurement and sourcing domain. Today, we have Mr. Kshitij Soin from Infosys BPM, Mr. Aval Sethi from EFS Facility Services India Limited, and Mr. Vikas Lashkari from EY, leading the procurement and sourcing in their respective organizations. Today, they'll be talking about their experience, learning, and skills, which will help all procurement professionals to upskill themselves and grow in their respective domains. Also, I would like to introduce the most versatile leader in the training industry, Ms. Jaya Shrivastava from Gujarat, who has been passionately leading the GSCA School of Excellence program from many years, and today she is going to talk about our upcoming programs. Before we begin, I would request all the participants to drop their queries in the YouTube live chat box, and our speakers will be happy to answer. On that note, I would first like to quickly touch upon a few important aspects of GSCS as an association. In this large corporate service domain, GSCS offers advisory, advocacy, and expertise to our members by supporting initiatives and creating business infrastructure to global reach, professional networking, thought leadership, and industry influential programs, focusing on our 8 pillars, also called as Council of Excellence, which are travel services and hospitality, sustainability, risk mitigation, security and investigation, project management and real estate, business continuity and disaster management, corporate social responsibility, facility management and transport operations, and at last, procurement and sourcing. Well, global reach professionals, networking, thought leadership, and industry influential programs focusing on our 8 pillars. Right? And with a membership base of 6,200 plus professionals across India and foreign, we have 12 chapters in India and 6 in other countries. Moving on to the next. We truly believe in our members, and thus it becomes our responsibility to create such platforms which can benefit them through various programs and initiatives. Industry articles, research papers, knowledge workshops are the key drivers in sharing knowledge. Under the crisis support, the team of passionate leaders gather current job openings from across domain and chapters and circulate to our members in form of industry opening, which allows them to apply as per their desire. Well, Partner Support Program is a digital exhibition which gives an opportunity to the vendor community to showcase their products and services straight to our members. Last but not the least, Knowledge Conclave is one of its kind platforms for not just sharing knowledge, but also network within the professionals across domain, which all happen under one umbrella. Above all this, GSCS as an association is proud in creating such environment with utmost ethical behavior followed under the guidance of Ethics and Governance Board. On that note, I would like to again thank everyone for your support. And now I'll request Mr. Kshitij Soin to start with our first round of speaking. Over to you.
Thanks, Jatin. If you allow me to share my slide, then I will take the discussion forward. Thank you very much. Let me just give me 5-10 seconds to share my screen. Jatin, can you please confirm if you are able to see my screen?
Yes,
It is yes.
we can.
Yeah, thanks, Jaya, thanks, Jatin. So warm welcome to everyone who's live streaming or would be watching this video later. I'm Kshitij Soin, would be discussing sourcing and procurement, where it is right now, and what are the growing opportunities in this domain. So before I move ahead, I would like to thank all my co-panelists. They are my industry seniors and veterans in the domain. So thanking them for giving me a chance to share the panel with them, and even Jaya ma'am, thank you very much for being part of this forum and this session. So just a brief about myself. This is me. On the top left is me and my wife, my 2 nieces and my son. This is my family. Currently, I'm working in Infosys. I have a master's of business administration in supply chain management. I have a master's in commerce, specializing in international business, and overall 25 years of industry experience in supply chain management. Last 20 years has been purely and working, specializing in sourcing and procurement domain. Key enthusiast of sports, love playing cricket, watching cricket, whenever get time, even try to play cricket. Even now, I'm about to touch 50 next year. Also play table tennis in my office. Try to hit gym whenever is possible. Do weekend cycling, running. This is what is my other hobbies are about. Also participate in few of the knowledge sharing sessions and even other conferences. So this is a brief about me. So I'll come to the topic which is kept for the discussion today: sourcing and procurement, S&P domain. So before that, there's a small question to all the viewers who would be viewing this live streaming, or maybe later on. When is the last time you have upgraded your mobile phone? I believe the answer is pretty obvious. There are people who are upgrading or changing their mobile phones in 6 months, or maybe there are people, or including myself, we have to upgrade, change our mobile phones maximum in 2 years time. So what is the need? What is the need of changing and upgrading your mobile phones? We all have smartphones. The upgrade is to, or change is to have better features, better equipped with technology, and have more better functionalities. So the question over here is, are we as professionals upgrading our skills? Are we upgrading our own skill sets, upgrading our domain skill sets, soft skills? Are we upgrading or investing in our skills? So with this question, I would like to bring to come to a point that currently sourcing and procurement domain is a very niche skill domain. The history of sourcing and procurement was a simple purchase department where a request or purchase request used to come, and a purchase manager or a purchase officer used to go to the market, gets few quotes, and he used to get the best rate out of it, negotiate, and close the deal. So is the purchase department still the same? No, it is not still the same. The evolution of purchase department or sourcing and procurement domain has started maybe 20, 25 years ago, where this normal procurement process or buying process is not the only role which a procurement function personnel has to do. In current state, we have lot many diversified approach. Unit cost price is not the only thing. We go for a total cost of ownership approach, and there are many more analytics coming into it. So that means the current state is already evolving, and we have to also upgrade our skills. Gone are the days where a person used to join an organization, and in his tenure of 35, 40 years, he used to maybe change 1 or 2 jobs and maybe join as a junior engineer or a junior officer and retire as a senior officer or maybe a section manager. Those days are gone. With technology changing so much, we have to change and upgrade ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So our discussion points would be, what is the current state of procurement and what would be the future state of procurement? So I feel very pride to say that I'm part of procurement professional, working as a procurement professional, because I feel, which I think everyone who's a procurement professional will feel, that procurement cuts across all the functions of any business. It has a connection or a connectivity with every department on the business which is taking place. So it can influence decisions of business. Because what is procurement doing? Procurement is managing the spend and expenses of any organization. It could be, apart from human resource expenses, payouts. Maybe in that case also, we have agencies where contracts are managed by procurement professionals only. We cut across everything. Every spend is managed or influenced by procurement department. So it is one of the best job in any business. So again, a question to everyone over here is, are you getting ready for the future? Are we just doing purchasing, or we are managing end-to-end procurement and sourcing? So I'll move to my next point. What does procurement entails? Procurement is not just buying now. It's not definitely procurement end to end. We have to go negotiate, get the best deal. But how do we do it today? How are the organization, big multinationals, big corporations, big even service industries, how they are doing it today? There is a lot of many aspects which I'm trying to showcase here. There is e-procurement, e-sourcing, which everyone knows, everyone is using right now. Then there is risk management. So the point over here I'm trying to put across to all growing professionals in procurement domain. Are you developing your career as a generalist where you know in bits and pieces of everything, or you are developing your career as a niche skill expert? So procurement is a niche skill domain now. We need analytics experts. A generalist cannot do it. We need proactive advanced analytics now. Then there is master data management, which enables the decision makers in procurement department to make decisions. So master data management is again a niche skill within procurement domain. Contract management. Then we have category management. At times, I have gone across meeting my colleagues or my subordinates and even my seniors. They find a mismatch in the expectation of job seekers versus the real expectation of a hiring manager. For example, you have done some procurement for civil and you are going ahead and giving an interview for a different category. So understand the category, understand the skills you have, or maybe you can grow those skills and then give those interviews, or maybe while you are working in some other domain, try to gather some other information, attend those seminars, conferences, meetings, certifications. So category management is a big thing happening in procurement domain. Then there is a SRM, cognitive computing, AI/ML. These are all aspects of procurement where we need specialists in the industry. So there is a huge gap in the industry right now where we don't need generalists now. We need experts doing their work and giving value to this procurement function. So just a thought to everyone over here that where exactly you are reaching. Are you equipped to get yourself in these categories, become an expert? And once you have done 10, 15 years of experience doing multiple roles, being specialist in multiple roles, then you can come out and then head these functions. So I'll again put across some more points. What is future of procurement? Future of procurement, I had to got a chance to hear a talk from a CPO of a huge multinational. And the question was put to him, what do you think your procurement department, what is the future of your procurement? What is your vision of a procurement department? And that gentleman answered that I want that procurement department should not be doing purchasing. They actually not be doing the real last minute transactional buying every time. So what is the future? Future of procurement department is they should not get involved on transactional repetitive procurement. So the future of procurement is more on contract management, run those contracts, execute those contracts, and give it to day-to-day operation people to do the buying piece. So the future of procurement is digital transformation. You have all those aspects. So the overall point which I'm trying to make right now, as an industry, procurement is a niche skill domain. It needs specialized approach. It needs specialists to handle those functions, those elements of procurement. And we want to encourage the professionals to be part of this specialized digital transformation and future of procurement. So with this, I would also like to convey that Procurement is not just doing these activities. It is much more than that. Communication, a big piece in procurement from a soft skills standpoint. You have to communicate with everyone, your stakeholder who has raised the request or a demand understanding with the supplier market. So communication, you have to be a good professional, procurement professional, you have to improve your communication skills. Then there are conflict management skills. It is not a conflict, but yes, all different departments, your internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders, be it suppliers, be it government, be the environment you are working in, all have their own different visions. They have their own goals. So you have to manage their expectations. So it is, you have to develop conflict management skills as well. And then you have to collaborate everything. So all these skills on a softer skill side also is required by a procurement professional to grow in the career. So these are some of the ideas I had to share, and we would be discussing some other aspects as the discussions go ahead. So over to you, Jatin. And if there are any questions, we can take it at the end of the session. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Soy. I would request Mr. Aval Sethi to please start with the second round.
Okay, thank you so much, Jatin. And I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you also, Kshitij, for your views and thoughts. I think very, very relevant. But before I take that further on and express my views, firstly, I would like to thank GACS, all of you, my co-panelists, and Jaya ma'am from the School of Excellence in GACS for this opportunity for me to be here. A very, very quick introduction of myself. So I come from an armed forces background. I started my career in the Indian Army, spent about 28 years now in my career. Post the Army, I worked in the corporate world and I worked with different industries, roles, organizations. I worked in iEnergizer, in Bechtel, in JLL, Protaiga, and embassy services. Most of my career post the Army has been in real estate, facilities management, as well as procurement, with a lot of expertise that I've built in the procurement domain. Some accomplishments, awards to my credit, but primary among them have been that I've been named among the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers on procurement by the Thinkers 360 group, and also awarded as the most talented procurement leader in India. And because of the work that I've done in the facility management domain, I've also been awarded as a champion of the facility management. I studied at the Delhi University, so I've passed out in my BA honors, and then I went on to do my MBA from Symbiosis in international business. I went to the Indian School of Business, where I've done my specialization in supply chain and got a certification. And then I also went on to the National University of Singapore, where I did my business strategies for Asia. So that's a short introduction. Coming to the subject, so I think in my experience, when I've looked at myself and a lot of people around, we've always, over a period of time, get very close to the business that we are servicing. And we switch our focus to very inward looking, to becoming more transactional and just delivering to what the organization's requirement are. But today, COVID has taught us, and so many other things have taught us, that it's now time to really sit back and look at the larger picture, look at what's happening around us, how organizations are being put under immense pressure, how businesses are evolving and changing. And then let's look at ourselves. Let's do some introspection and see where we were, what we were doing, and does it, or how much of it is still relevant for the future that is looking up to us. And what should we be doing actually to move ahead? Now, we know that a number of organizations have been facing unprecedented change and disruptions, and procurement has to also disrupt itself to grow and stay in front of this change. If we don't change, if we don't adopt, if we don't disrupt, we will be left far behind as a function, as somebody who's supporting the organizations in its journey on this change. Now, again, to a point that Kshitij brought out, that the procurement of tomorrow will definitely likely need to evolve from simple purchasing and sourcing to actually enabling a seamless digital experience. And this digital experience is not a standalone experience, but where suppliers, your organizations, and to the extent even your clients will need to be seamlessly integrated and be enabled through these digital platforms. There will be a need for extreme analytics to come on board. The workforce will need to enhance and upgrade their capabilities. So gone are the days where admin professionals who've transitioned and migrated into procurement, or procurement staff who were doing transactional activities like documentation, PO cutting, and so on. You will need to really upgrade yourself and look at the future differently. You will have to look at an agile working model to be able to compete in the future. Now, today, with the 2 years of experience with COVID coming in, so 2020 and 2021, there has been a movement, there has been a move where some of the leading procurement teams have already kind of created a white paper, developed an agenda to deal with this disruption. And where they're focusing is more on innovation, building stronger supplier and customer relationships. Supplier relationships have been very, very important during this time, because for organizations who've actually survived largely have been because of the close support that they've received from some of their suppliers and from their customers who've held their hand. Organizations who've actually looked at decentralized operating model to support their business. So if you sit back and see where you were, where you are, and where you're moving, I think one big aspect that all of us need to really put our thoughts together is on third-party centricity, which actually focuses on integrated relationships. And around that, the supplier interactions, which were largely tactical, have to be converted into more strategic relationships with gaining real insights from the suppliers and bringing all those insights onto an integrated platform. Right? Now, procurement obviously has to step up and go beyond the traditional role of just looking at cost cutting and some amount of supplier management. Now, unfortunately, one of the key KRAs that's always given to procurement is reduce cost. And our focus traditionally has been, how can I reduce that unit price and therefore bring cost reduction? But there are many, many elements that this environment has taught us today that can be looked at to bring in cost reductions. Now, when I look at this whole evolution and this whole ecosystem, and also when I look at how organizations are growing and the innovation that's coming into the business, there are 4 key areas in my view that procurement professionals need to focus. First one is, how do you support sustainable growth? And that is in terms of the organization that you serve. Unless you work very closely with the key stakeholders within that organization, you will probably not know how that organization intends to scale. And only when you know what the intent of that organization is, will you be able to proactively manage the supplier ecosystem and to bring the resources to support that transition of that organization. Now, as a company's procurement partner, you are expected today and in the future to carry out in-depth analysis. A lot of research and analytics has to be brought on. That will help the company to contain costs, and that can be by multitude of ways. One, buying in advance based on predictive analytics or consumption trends or the demands of the customers, as also buying from alternate sources to limit, say, exposure to price fluctuations. Now, the improved analytics and the visibility obviously help the procurement function identify supplier price hikes that probably may or may not be in line with what the market conditions are, and also helps them in manage supply chain risks to increase resilience. The second aspect, which I touched upon a little earlier, is also around the digital operating model. Now, as you bring in more and more technology, the first element that all of us need to focus on is change your mindset. Being adaptive and bring in a digital mindset, which also fosters strategic thinking and supplier collaboration. That will help you improve business alignment and in turn increase the impact of procurement. The procurement has to be more agile. We've seen the ups and downs of the requirements because of the market fluctuations and the market variations. Now, unless we are agile, unless we are aligned, unless we are effective, the organizations of tomorrow is not going to value the role that we play as procurement professionals in the journey of that organization. And when you look at the top digital investment areas for procurement is clearly analytics, automation, improvements in procure-to-pay processes. And these are areas that we should learn, we should adapt, and we should focus on for the foreseeable future. Now, we also know that, and we've been hearing a lot around technologies such as the RPA or machine learning. They're no longer buzzwords. They're no longer something that we've been just hearing, but actually a lot of organizations have implemented that. And that has helped automate mundane tasks such as purchase approval workflows or delivery scheduling, as simple as that, right? But the differentiation tomorrow is going to be the advanced analytics that we as professionals are able to bring on and deliver valuable insights into the spending and how we can collaborate and build and improve on our supplier relationships. The third element is improving alignment. Now, again, when I look at a lot of procurement professionals, they operate in silos, they operate on orders on what needs to be transacted, and their approach is very transactional. But the organizations of future require an improved alignment and building trusted relationships with all your stakeholders within the organization. Now, I know that some of us do that very well. We actually engage with the stakeholders, but also there are a large number of us, for some reason, who shy away from engaging with the key stakeholders within the organizations. So it is important today that we understand what are the most important initiatives and objectives, that is their focus areas, and build a response and build a plan around to deal with those. Also, specialization, category expertise, having specialized knowledge, insights on a particular contract or product category will also hold us in good stead in the future. And at the end of it, I think it's more around also delivering a superior experience. And that will always come from our intuitiveness. When at the back of our mind, we are able to understand what the organizational needs are, proactively approach that with our intuitiveness, predict what the organization needs, build in a little of personalization into the whole delivery model. And performance obviously becomes so much more integral to how procurement engages with internal stakeholders and suppliers. Now, so to really sum it up, I think an augmented set of skills is needed for the future of procurement. Commercial acumen will always hold us in good stead. And I think that's something of primary focus. Unless we have commercial acumen as procurement professionals, we will falter, we will fail. And that is an expertise, that is a core area that if some of you or a lot of you do not have or are not comfortable with, I think that's a skill that you should focus to learn. Being empathetic, technology conversant. Today, when I look at the millennial generation, they are so up to date on technology, the changes, the adoption of technology, whereas some of us may really struggle to understand the technology and the wherewithal and the methods of the technology. Analytics is going to be a key, and that these are some of the minimum requirements that will be for procurement for the future. And the next generation of procurement is expected to engage in category strategy, category innovation. You call it the value chain of activities that allows employees to see the results of their work, which is well beyond cost saving metrics. So those are a couple of my thoughts on procurement. Over to you, back to you, Jatin, and I think Vikas, for your thoughts.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Awal Sethi. I would request Mr. Vikas Lashkari to take it over from here, please.
Thank you, Awal, and thank you, Jatin. First, thank you everyone for joining this. And I know there are some 34 people watching on YouTube, so I think that's a good number to really look at. And I think the purpose for setting up this, series of these interactions was to create a community of procurement professionals, because that's something that we always thought, and I think the core procurement people always felt that we are probably lacking a forum wherein we could probably be a congregation of procurement, professionals who essentially, practice procurement on a day-to-day basis. Because the challenges over there, the way we have to probably deliver things, and the way we have to probably meet expectation of our organization is slightly different than the other organizations which do. So I think so far, as I think Kshitij and Awal has just said, I think the area of procurement operations were more fudgy with the FM organization and the administration organization and so on. So I think now that the overall value proposition of procurement is realized by most of the organization, procurement happens to be one of the key value delivery organization. And I think that's the change which has happened over a couple of years. So if I look at it, I mean, if somebody had asked me some 20 years back, what are the traits that you can have in a procurement guy to be successful out here? So what came to my mind at that point in time would have been possibly that you have to be super responsive, you have to be high on integrity, and you should be able to have a great amount of commercial acumen over there. But over a period of time, I think this whole function has transformed into a different domain altogether. And I think some of it Kshitij and Awal have very nicely articulated that it's not more about transactional or tactical procurement we essentially look at. Procurement is more about sourcing and delivering value, wherein a huge amount of value can be delivered to an organization. So typically, if you look at, there are two sorts of organization. You've got a manufacturing and you've got a service organization. These are large two big categories of that. In a manufacturing organization, role of procurement is always carved out. So you've got 65, 50, 60, 65% of material cost which sits over there. There's an 18% cost on the indirect cost. The rest is your conversion and your margins. In the indirect side, or in the service industry side, you've got around 18% of addressable spend which is there. Balance is your employee cost and the other costs which are there. The rest all is margin sitting there. And likely, and purely because of that fact that there was less amount of meat sitting out here in the service industry, the procurement evolution started a little bit late in these areas. So companies like IT, ITES, and the service industry, consulting industry, financial services industries, there the procurement took birth slightly late, and they were slightly behind in terms of S-curve as compared to the manufacturing industry. So I think one of the, as we said, I think one of the reasons why we are actually congregated out here and we are trying to collect out here is to generate some kind of a momentum in terms of people who are essentially focused and playing a primary role in procurement. So GSES as an organization, I think we are now at a step wherein we'll be soon be sending out some forms for people to really fill up and take membership for this procurement organization, wherein the core procurement people can interact together, and then we take this momentum forward from here. So we will invite, in fact, all the people who are essentially playing a core procurement management role in their organization. They should join and they should really participate in this organization that we have. And I'll probably shortly describe as to what do they gain in joining this organization. So as Kshitij and Awal just shared, I think the procurement domain is becoming more and more specialized. And one of the areas that I am leading as part of EY is on the consulting side. So we consult a lot of clients in terms of how to transform your procurement organization. How do you actually build up a world-class procurement organization? And some of the areas which really come up, and that's where the the demand and the talent, the skill set that we require are around some of the areas which Awal and Kshitij just shared. But to rephrase that, some of the key critical skill set that we look forward to are essentially people who have good in-depth category management skill set. So as Awal and Kshitij just described, there are different category domains which are there, for which we are looking for people, we are looking for talents who are essentially specialized in terms of managing them effectively. And what are these categories? If somebody has to probably name that, in a service industry, this would be really revolving around professional services, real estate, your workplace services, talent, travel, technology, BMC, design and construct projects, MRO, and CAPEX. These are largely the categories within which the specialization is being generated in the procurement domain. Besides this, there are some center of excellence that we are trying to build up, and they are around recruitment services, workplace services, and insurance services. That's the other big spend area within the service industries, wherein we're trying to build some function and some people who can actually specialize in these areas and provide advisory to our clients and also to their organization as well. So that's on the category management side. So I think this is one big area for people to really develop themselves in. And some of the people working in our organization, are at a level of directors and managing the country level and the region levels categories in the categories I just mentioned to you over there. The other area which in procurement is being asked for and we are looking forward to, and I think that's one area where you may want to probably develop your skill set, is around the source to pay. Source to pay essentially is around the transaction management piece, but this is more about how do you actually build up a governance process in procurement from requisitioning to the payment process. So I think that end-to-end cycle and the management of the tools. So there are some specific tools which are there, which are being used extensively, like Ariba, Coupa, and all. So these are something that we would want, our people in this area to really grow their, expertise on. And then comes the digitization piece. We talked about digitization a bit earlier. I think how do we bring transparency and also managing the procurement processes and digitize that in an effective fashion, which is audit proof and effective in an organization to ensure that we are not missing out any steps or creating any risk for the organization. The fourth areas that we are looking at is the vendor risk management. I think this is one area which is very critical for most of the organizations, specifically if you look at the banking industry and all. I think they are focusing in a very big way in vendor risk management. So what are the kind of risks that procurement person looks at? I think that itself shows that probably what is the depth at which the supply chain professional has to be be aware of while onboarding a supplier. So there are geopolitical risks, you've got financial risks, you've got compliance risks, you've got regulatory risks, you've got infosec risk, cyber risk, privacy risk, and so on and so forth. I can go on this. So, but a very, very, very effective organization always has a very strong supplier risk management organization. And I've recently had a chance to work for a bank, a global bank, and there I really found that the people they had a very strong team of 60 odd people. They were managing the global supplier risk in their organization, and they used to follow this process of ensuring that every vendor passes through these toll gates of what I just described as this type of the risk that somebody needs to be aware of. And once they're certified, then only then the person is that vendor is supposed to be provide any service in the organization. Any contract can be signed with that. So I think this is becoming very, very niche and very deep subject for organizations to really work with while they are doing the procurement piece. The other niche area which is coming up, and I think this is not niche, I would think, but this is an evolution. And I think usually this happens when you're reaching on the upper quartile of your S curve. And this is the environmental sustainability and governance services. These are the areas wherein you talk about supplier diversity, you talk about sustainability? How do we bring it into your day-to-day activities? And how do you actually ensure that your supply chain is ready for embracing this, sustainability guidelines and your diversity guidelines in their system? And I must tell you that, if we all have to be very, very careful about this, because if we do not embrace this, we'll be forced by our clients to ensure that we are actually, building this into our supply chain scheme of things. So most of the people, in fact, including EY and some of the, big organizations, they ensure the people they work with, they ensure that the people who provide services to them, they have a good thought process behind supply chain sustainability and diversity built up into their own network. And if they are not able to prove that, then possibly they miss out a chance to do business with such organizations. So, this is something which is becoming more and more relevant for people to really understand how do they build that piece in their procurement supply chain area. And then, of course, Kshitij talked about VMO and the vendor management organization, supplier relationship management. Then others key areas for delivery of procurement in any of the organization. And I think that's something that goes without saying, that you've chosen a vendor, you've negotiated well, you've contracted it well on paper, but then how do you ensure that the supplier is actually able to deliver based on the contract that we have signed with them? So I think that portion gets delivered through SRM and VMO, and that's another skill set that we advise and we probably make people aware about, as to how do you run this organization with a strong VMO and SRM skill set around that. And then there is a whole bit of policy and governance piece. So whole policy and governance is essentially how do you run. So what is the engine on which the whole procurement runs? There has to be a policy through which you contain cost and you actually control cost, and bring about the different functions, stakeholders together to really follow some processes around that. So that's the primary engine on which people have to be very skillful on, and they should be able to explain that to their stakeholders as well. And then one more thing I think which probably you'll come across is that in GACS, and while we are building this procurement vertical out there, we will be having a kind of an academy wherein we will be training people on procurement skill set. And what are these skill set? I think that's something that we just talked about. So you've got category management, you have vendor risk management, you've got supplier relationship management, your total cost management. I think how do you manage essentially cost from a total cost ownership perspective, negotiation skills, Six Sigma in procurement domain. How do you digitize S2P and the contract management details around that. So, these are some of the areas which we are looking at and more. I think this is only one representation of what we'll be essentially training people to be joining us in this movement. And they'll be taking help from us, and probably we'll make them ready for the next level of the journey in their career in procurement. So I think that's the other piece that we are trying to build over there. And then, of course, there is an innovation piece and a whole lot of other procurement areas in which we essentially are trying to build up procurement skill set for the people who are essentially joining us, and getting them trained for them to be really successful in their own organization as well. So I would, pause here and encourage people who are there on the call and probably within your network to really connect. Talk to your procurement folks whom you are connected over there, and bring them to this, organization, which we call as GACS procurement organization. We want to be a good, 100, 200, 300, 400 people who are core into procurement management within their organization. And to them, I think we can deliver this, whatever I just said, and more beyond this, in terms of ensuring that they are, kept abreast of what's happening around the world. We will also open up opportunity for them to participate in resource hunting for areas wherein we provide job opportunities for people who are essentially good in this area. And recently, I think from this GACS group, we picked up 5 or 6 people for our procurement client role that was there. So I think we picked up some senior managers as well, and they could actually come up to our expectation in terms of providing our skill set to some of the clients. So I think that it will open up a lot of doors for you to really ensure that one is you upskill your yourself in terms of procurement skills and within the procurement domain, and also it will create some job opportunities for you to really see how can you move around and look at procurement in a different through a different lens, and ensure that you are seen as one of the prospective candidates for most of the people who are essentially looking at procurement resources around the world. So I'll pause here and then uh, just pass it on to my colleague over there, and she will probably take it up from here onwards. Jaya, can you please do the final round of this, please?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Kshitij, Aval, and Vikas for being here, taking our time and giving very sharp insights and a broad overview. I know 1 hour is less to talk about such a critical vertical of any business or any organization. However, you all have packed it with a lot of information, and I'm sure our audience, listeners who are out there, we're already getting quite a few questions, and I'm sure we'll take those first before we get into School of Excellence. And I would like to just share a few words about School of Excellence, but that can still hold on. Let's take the questions. So I think we have the first questions for Kshitij. What is strategic sourcing, and is it different from procurement?
Yeah, thanks, yeah. So very nice question, relevant. So as a sourcing procurement domain, the aspects which are there, one is strategic sourcing and one is procurement / purchasing / buying. So the major primary difference between the two aspects is one is very reactive in approach, which is buying or procurement. You get a request, you work on that request, and you execute your request, and you conclude the procurement or purchasing. But one is very proactive in approach. You analyze the data of previous spends, you analyze the market trends, you analyze the risk occurring in the market, you have market intels, and you do a strategic sourcing event for your future procurement to happen. So one is quite reactive and other is totally proactive approach. So that's the basic approach. Yeah, so that's a brief about this question. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. And we have the next question. Aval, would you like to take that up? For beginners, what are the qualifications required to enter in this domain? And I'd like to add, because you spoke about communication also being quite important in this. So we have a question from Captain Rajesh as well, that unfortunately procurement professionals do not communicate enough. How do you suggest they improve or they upgrade their communication skills as well?
Okay, so thank you for that. So the two elements on communication and the qualification. So firstly, when I look at, even before I look at either of them, I think the first step for a good procurement professional is your mindset.
Absolutely.
How are you set up in your mind to take on? And like I had mentioned, that commercial excellence is the key. If you have a mindset or a mathematical mindset or something that is more analytical, you will be a very successful procurement professional, irrespective of your qualifications. But when it comes to qualification, today, there are a host of opportunities and areas that offer you qualifications. So starting from your various certifications that the online academies offer you, you could go on to actually take qualifications from an organization like Apex and so on. You can also go and do your MBA in supply chain or specialization in supply chain. You could go to IIMs, you could go to any of these top-notch institutes and learn the fundamentals around procurement. At the end of it, you could go to ISB, you could go to so many other institutes. But at the end of it, I think I come back to that mindset that if you have a clear mindset, if you have that inclination, if you have that bent of mind, if you are good at building relationships with suppliers, if you are good with people, you are social, and you interact very easily with people, I think that's a key for any one of the procurement professionals. Now, the second aspect is around communication. Yes, for me, communication is equally important, if not more. You have to have good written communication and good spoken communication. You should be able to convey your ideas. You should be able to convey your thoughts. You should be able to convey what your intent is, or what your intention is, articulated very well, presented very well. Now, it could be either verbally or in written, both. Now, for people, everybody may not have good communication skills. And again, there are many platforms that offer learning opportunities. You could get on those platforms. You will have to invest time. You will have to put in some effort. And learning is lifelong. Learning is lifelong. You can't say that, look, I've done something and that's the end of it. Now I'm the master. It's not going to happen. Till your last day, till you die, your journey on this earth is a learning journey, right?
Absolutely.
So that's my thought.
Right. Thank you for responding to that very well. And I think you emphasized mindset and learning. And I think learning is also a mindset that needs to be developed. Learning is challenging status quo. And I think that's one aim of School of Excellence, where we encourage youngsters, people who are there in the industry, to come forward, upgrade their knowledge, their skills. Coming back to the questions, Vikas, we have one for you. Will AI take complete dominance? What's the future for category procurement with AI taking complete dominance? Sorry, that was an error on my part. What's the future of category procurement?
Okay, so fantastic. I think that's a great question. So, people who have actually had a chance to really work for procurement in the last 5 to 10 years in a service industry, and if they have worked in a manufacturing industry, they might have seen how category management has, transformed itself from a general procurement to a category management expertise. So in a manufacturing organization, they are largely commodities, or the areas which are largely higher volume procurement or high value procurement which are there. That's how the category specialization happens. And then in a service industry, you've got, again, areas of expertise which are related around technology, travel, talent, workplace services, etc., real estate, so on. How artificial intelligence or AI has actually, helped or enabled these category leaders to really, deliver more and be more effective in terms of their management and delivery to the organization has been tremendous. I think over the years, we have seen that the BI, the business intelligence spend, has been, and the analytics around there have been one of the biggest challenge. So what creates an interesting conversation with the CEO of an organization is your ability to talk to him about the spend that's happening in the organization and what is the area of focus or priority that people need to really look at. I think that's one area which is largely got into AI, and BI spend analytics is one of the areas that we do. Then you've got commodity price prediction models. So these price prediction models are generated through AI these days. You don't have to spend hours creating spreadsheets around that. Once you have a program built up around there, AI delivers you, commodity price prediction models in different kind of industries and for different things. Then you've got cost sheet, open costing, your should cost models in different environment on how to build cost and how do you arrive at a price are some of the models which are helpful through an AI enabling tools. And then you've got a vendor database, and when through a vendor database, how do you actually generate meaningful and meaningful intelligence to really take action on those suppliers who are of value to you and who are providing large services and critical services for the organization. That also is being managed by AI. And besides this, of course, there are other areas like category playbooks, generating category playbooks, your total cost of ownership analysis, your process repositories, etc. These are some of the areas through which AI has been very, very effectively being used. And to my mind, if we can actually make use of these AI tools. And I think if somebody can probably offline connect with me, I can probably help him out understand how we can actually, generate this AI to deliver more through the procurement domain that we actually specialize in. So I'll pause here and, I hope that answers the question.
I'm sure it does. Thank you for that. Okay, a slightly longer one, and there's a context to it first, which I would like to set. So compared to general procurement, category management limits us to a specific category. Also, only a few organizations have a kind of spend where category management is required. What are your views on this? Not to forget, it's hard enough to get procurement jobs, let alone category management. What are your views? And this is an open question to the three of you, whoever would like to take it up first.
Okay, let me attempt this question, and I'll attempt this because I have been struggling to get some 10 people in procurement for past 6 months, and unsuccessful so far. So I've got some 3-4 of them, but not mine. So when I interview some people, let's say for procurement, I essentially look for some capabilities or some skill set wherein they bring on the table. So suppose I'm hiring a person who essentially will be responsible for let's say real estate buying for an organization. I would essentially like to talk to someone who's essentially into real estate, who understands the dynamics of real estate, who understands the market well, who understands the per square feet, per square meter consumption, who understand these dynamics about real estate. Now, one person sent me a CV and he says that, hey, I've been managing facilities management, I've been doing, travel management, and I also do real estate in an organization. And when I talk about that person about real estate, I do not find that kind of conversation going on beyond a particular point. And I think that's a piece that we need to all understand. As we grow, we have to be moving on from generalist to a specialized. And then to a senior generalist. A generalist is a person who would know the procurement processes well. He would be able to articulate procurement process to other people. He would be able to probably buy something. But a person who goes to the next level would be essentially a specialized person who would essentially know the subject matter very effectively, who would be able to articulate things and understand and would have insight into that specific domain which he's doing a buying. So that this next level of his graduation into procurement. And further than that, then you've got a procurement management role wherein you become a director, you become VP, you become senior VP, and so on and so forth, wherein you will manage such, specialized people who are essentially providing service to your organization and create a general management for this. And these people are generally CPOs. I think that's the way it is. So if you have to go to the CPO level, you have to be generalist. You need to understand the process, be a specialized person, and then go to the next level. And within specialization, we explained during our call that there are a variety of specializations which are there. And, some of the good people who actually rise to the CPO level, they are having more than one category expertise over a period of time. So that probably is the, growth journey, and that is the path in which somebody needs to take. On the question about, not getting procurement role, I would say that at this point in time, there are so many procurement organizations hunting for procurement people. But you need to have the right skill set. You need to be trained in those areas. And if you are ready-made material, at least in my organization, I can hire 20 people. Now, if somebody is there who can actually provide me technology sourcing expertise, who can provide me contracting sourcing expertise. But one of the examples, I'll just give it to you. I was talking to a guy who came to me and I wanted to hire a software sourcing technology person. Now, I asked him, has he ever heard about how is I would say code developer or code development software is managed through a contract, and what is some of the aspects of how do you actually source these codes from these companies who provide you software. Right. Now those kind of expertise can only come if you have actually done this sourcing in depth. And those kind of questions can only be answered, and you can build up those kind of risks while you are contracting on for software, when you have actually managed those from a legal perspective and from the privacy perspective and from so many different angles and lenses that you look at this specified sourcing. So if I talk about this from a generalist perspective, you would say, oh, my legal guy would do a contract, I will negotiate, here are the payment terms. here's the contract. But beyond that, if you have to dig deep into this whole piece as to how do you risk-proof your organization, that can only happen through a very in-depth category management skill set. So I think I would think that, you know, that's the mindset we need to have. And specifically people who are in procurement, they need to probably develop that kind of a mindset to really get to the next level. You know?
Yeah. So taking up from this and the previous question that I asked, obviously there's a gap, right? And one of the visions of GACS has always been knowledge sharing, and School of Excellence is a structured platform to give and train people in these skills, finding the gaps in the market and filling those gaps, because our main vision is to keep the pipeline green and enhance the capabilities of the young professionals, right? So that organizations find the right resources. How do we fill this gap, or what is the gap largely? Is it a lack of knowledge, or is it a lack of willingness also maybe? So there are people who are these generalists, but they are not wanting to get into specialized categories. Also, they may not know how do we proceed ahead. So where is the gap? Can we analyze that and then look at maybe launching certain specific modules which would benefit our audience?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think if I can just add to that, I think just a point of re-emphasizing what Vikas had said. So in the career journey of a procurement professional, there are different stages. So as a youngster, fresh out of college, you may join an organization, you may get into procurement, but you will probably be asked only to, say, at the junior most level, create purchase orders,
right,
or look at one particular aspect of something. But as you move up in a couple of years, you may start looking at 2 or 3 different elements of procurement.
Correct.
Right? So over a period of time, you may start handling multiple aspects. You may start liking some of those aspects, and you may want to further deep dive and build your expertise around those key pillars or elements, as you call it.
Right.
Again, when you move up to the next level, again, it's a time when you start looking at, again, newer elements to it and add that to your learning or to your kitty. And then again, at the senior most level, at the management level, or as a CPO, it is very important that you should have knowledge and understanding of different categories to be able to manage your teams and to be able to make sure that the people below you are not actually fudging around stuff, right? When they come up to you with answers, or when they bring problems to you or solutions to you, they're actually bringing the actual facts and numbers to you. So in that journey, now, most of the people shy away from firstly acknowledging that they have a gap.
Yes.
They may want a job at the next level, but they're struggling to acknowledge that, yes, this is my gap and I need to learn. And the second aspect is, where do I go to learn?
Yes.
So I will ask my friends around, I will ask peers, but really I'm not very clear. And if I'm investing money, or if I'm putting in money, I want to be damn sure that that money is worth the value.
ROI. The ROI on the investment.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the gap that probably with SOE, with GACS, is something that we should be able to take on, is identify, because a lot of it is also around customization into looking at what your skill gap is, and then building aspects of it that fill that gap, and you are skilled up to the next level. And I think SOE from that perspective is aiming to fill that gap and offer those solutions to people who may not want to go to 10 different ways and areas, but actually concentrate and come to SOE and be able to take on those trainings.
Sure. Great. Thank you. We have one more question. What are the new technologies we are looking on upcoming days, in your view and expertise, to make more digitizing or digitization of the procurement domain? Any insights, please? So I think basically, what are some of the new upcoming technologies in the procurement sourcing world? And maybe to extend the question, are there any specific learning platforms for these then? Is there any way of upgrading their learnings on these AI platforms?
So maybe I can take that.
Sure.
Yeah. So some of the technologies or some of the AI, as I said, are into the area of analytics in terms of process management, and some of the areas wherein probably where you can actually apply artificial intelligence to deliver you the results. So as I said, some of the areas wherein we have this AI being used very extensively is around the automation of spend analytics. So Microsoft, BI tool which is there, I think that specializes in that, how you actually dice and slice your data, and how you generate intelligence around that is something which is being done very seamlessly through this Microsoft tool. And we are essentially, using it on a day-to-day basis. We also provide some insight in terms of how do you actually populate your dashboard. So I think one of the creation of dashboard has been one of the biggest challenges that our clients have faced. That they are doing some lot of good work, but they are not able to generate the dashboard so effectively. But through this AI tool, I think this helps us in generating these business intelligence reports. Then of course there are ways to really manage these commodity price and the price prediction model that we just talked about. I think that's the other piece which is there, which could be properly used. And there are specific tools which have been developed to provide these kind of insights into this. And that's something, again, some of the tools have been developed by some organizations. Some of the tools are ready-made available within which are available for anybody to use. But there you have the subscription charges, etc. But largely these are the tools which are very specifically used and developed for respective categories or respective sourcing domain that are there. But these are some of the things which are available for people to use, and there are opportunities for us to really train people to use these tools and generate reports around that. Besides this, of course, there are other tools that are also there. Which are there, AI models which are there, which a lot of work can be done, and a lot of intelligence can be delivered. And I think speed is the game in this whole thing. The whole benefit of using AI tools is essentially to provide some good intelligent report, much fast and much at a much speedier fashion for your clients to really look at and your stakeholders to really look at. So I would probably think that these are the areas where we can probably look at AI to be helpful on. And some of the tools I explained, they are either proprietary or they are available in the market, which you can probably look at. And if somebody has very specific questions on which tools to use for specific purpose, do please connect with me. I'll be able to help with that.
Sure. That's, I think, quite specific and very helpful. Thank you. I think there are no more questions right now. So firstly, I think I'd just like to summarize a little bit. So what I could pick up from my three speakers today here was that it's a super job, according to Kshitij, but there's a gap and we need augmented skills for that. And maybe that's what's lacking, and that's why Mr. Lashkari is unable to find the right resources. It's requires super responsiveness. And I think that brings in a lot of skills, which again, maybe the knowledge is there, but the specialization is missing, or the lack of depth of knowledge is missing. So these are all some of the skills, knowledge, specialization. And I suppose it's across all functions, and that's why it's a super job, according to Kshitij. But definitely requires a lot of changes, upgradations, especially today with the given digitization, disruptions, whether natural or technological. I think we need to really disrupt ourselves also, and that's where the mindset comes. So are we ready to disrupt our mindset and change our mindset and pick up learning as a key to moving ahead in this particular domain as a career, if this is where you want to be. And I think that's where I would just take a minute to summarize and bring in the role that School of Excellence has been playing and would like to expand going forward in providing trained resources to the corporate services sector, given the way things are changing in the corporate sector world. I think whether it is like Mr. Lashkari said, that's whether it's real estate, purchasing real estate, it starts from there. So whether it's buying a piece of land or whether it's buying a pin or a software for, an organization, how well are you equipped with the knowledge, the background? I think all those kind of skill sets and knowledge that the market today requires, we are willing to provide through a collaborative platform that we bring in experts. And you've heard 3 senior experts here today who've taken out time from their own professions and are willing to contribute to build this community, upgrade the skills of the community. But it's now for us to really accept that there is this gap and I need to work on it. So I think that acceptance and then joining the right institute, platform, taking up the right course, and we are here to give you those skill sets. Just let us know, you know where to reach us. We have our LinkedIn page, follow us, GACS School of Excellence. We keep coming up with various training programs, but we will be more than happy to give you customized training modules. So what is the need of the hour? We are here to deliver that. Reach out to us, let us know. We have the resources, we have the panel of experts, we have the knowledge, we have the audience. Now it's just matching the 2 ends. So with that, I'd really like to thank our 3 speakers for today. Mr. Lashkari, Kshitij, Aval, thank you so much. I'd also like to thank the people who worked in the back end, supporting the delivery of this program. So Jatin, thank you so much. The broadcasting team for all the messages being spread around on WhatsApp, etc. Thank you so much to the GKMC team for the teasers, etc. as well. And looking forward to a lot of people joining us in our next training program. I see Samir is also there. Samir, a closing word from you, please. Not there, Samir.
Samir is on mute, actually.
Yeah, I think he's
on just got a message. There is some technical challenges which is there at his end.
Okay. So once again, then on behalf of GACS School of Excellence, really a huge shout out to all of you and the audience, not to forget, of course, because if you were not there, the speakers would have just been having a brainstorming amongst ourselves. So thank you for making it, taking out time and being here and motivating and encouraging us to share our thoughts, and wait to hear some more from you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a pleasant evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Absolutely. Stay
Thank
safe.
you all. Take care.